welcome to another brand new episode here of the
Geek Buddies. Hey!
And if some of you are currently watching Settle the Score, yes, we are wearing the same shirts from a week ago. That's right, to do this show here. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We are very, very happy to jump into all things going on in the world of geekdom. We got some massive stuff that dropped today, some changes in the world of Gotham, some new trailers to dive into, some conversations about Disney that are a bit uncomfortable. But the big news is, as we're recording this today, the Kenobi teaser trailer dropped, something we've all been waiting for, and finally it is here. It's 1 minute and 46 seconds. We all got a chance to watch it. I did a trailer reaction for it, and we're going to break it all down in our main topic. But let's go around the horn and introduce ourselves. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, writer, producer, and host here on the Outlaw Nation of the Geek Buddies. Mike.
I am Michael Vogel. I'm a writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies, and happy that we finally got our timing right with a trailer release.
That's a great point. Shannon?
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor where you may have seen me on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Silicon Valley, and The Goldbergs.
And before we go any further, I just want to give a big shout out to Carbon Health, who powers and sponsors us here on the Geek Buddies and on the Outlaw Nation. They're a fantastic healthcare company. They're a national healthcare company that helps people. They got 90 clinics in 14 states, virtual care in 24 states, all available to you for you to use. Go to carbonhealth.com and see all the multiple services and facilities they have available for you to take advantage of. Sometimes day of appointments are available in your area. Check with them. They just believe that healthcare should be accessible to everybody, and they believe in constructing healthcare plans that work specifically for you, not for a general you, but you specifically. So go and pay attention. Go and give them a call and pay attention to what they're telling you. And do me a favor, do us a favor, really. Tweet out and let us know when you go see them what your experience is like, and at them so they understand that we are having an effect on getting people through their doors and get seen by them. They do testing also for COVID and for heading overseas for that as well. So, all right. Anyway, let's get into these things here with the Geek Buddy stuff. The way it works is the three of us talk about a geek news item. Each of us brings up one geek news item. We talk about it amongst ourselves, take a bit of a break, and jump into our main topic. And our main topic, how can it not be, is breaking down that Kenobi teaser trailer. So be patient. We will get to it, and look for the time codes down there if you want to jump ahead to let you know when we're doing it. All right, Michael, you're starting us off, I believe.
All right, well, let's dive in to some rainbow-colored controversy at the Walt Disney Company. All right, so unless you've been living under a rock, you have probably heard that Florida has passed the Parental Rights in Education Bill, also dubbed the Don't Say Gay Bill, which limits what classrooms can teach about sexual orientation and gender identity in schools, particularly ages kindergarten through third grade. So obviously, this is a bill that if you are part of the LGBTQ community, if you have a friend or a family member who is part of the LGBTQ community, or you just support the LGBTQ community, you probably think is pretty horrible, because it basically says you shouldn't talk about something that is just a way of life for a ton of people. And if you are a big fan of Disney, you probably know that gay people in the LGBTQ community love them some Disney. And Disney, for their part, seems pretty positive. They participate in gay pride parades. They have pride merchandise every year. However, what was discovered by the Orlando Sentinel is that the Disney company, while giving money to lots of politicians in Florida, also gave money to every single one of the politicians who supported the Don't Say Gay bill. And of course, this got Disney into a lot of hot water, because it really did kind of look like Disney gives a lot of lip service to supporting LGBTQ rights, while at the exact same time giving money to the exact people who are trying to take those rights away. Bob Chapek, CEO of Disney, came out earlier in the week trying to explain their stance, but didn't really kind of explain it. It was a non-answer. He said that what was most important was the content that they put out, as if their content was super, super gay, when we could get into a big conversation about that. it says, in terms of communities, we are and continue to be a leader of supporting and championing diversity. But it really wasn't enough for most people. So throughout the week, people have been protesting. Disney employees, creatives who work for Disney, voice talent, writers, directors, just across the board, have really, really been pressuring Bob Chapek and the Disney company to take a stance and explain what they've been doing. And as of us taping this today, they have sort of come out. They had their shareholders meeting today, and Bob Chapek, because he really didn't have a choice, kind of came out and said, while we've been strong supporters of the community for decades, I know that many are upset we did not speak out against the bill. We were opposed to the bill from the outset, and we chose not to take public positions because we felt we could be more effective working behind the scenes with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. Since that effort failed and the bill did pass, Chapek said that he called Governor Ron DeSantis to express our disappointment and concern that if legislation becomes law, it could be used to unfairly target gay, lesbian, non-binary, and transgender kids and families. The governor heard our concerns and agreed to meet with me and LGBTQ plus members of our senior team in Florida to discuss ways to address them. Now, DeSantis's group came out. Spokesperson said, this is the first time we've heard from Disney regarding this bill. The governor did take the call from Mr. Chapek. The governor's position has not changed. No in-person meeting has been scheduled yet. In addition, at the shareholders meeting, Chapek said that Disney would donate $5 million to LGBTQ organizations like the Human Rights Campaign, and saying that they're committed to supporting community organizations like these who are better equipped to take on fights. Meanwhile, we will also be addressing our approach to advocacy, including political giving in Florida. So, after about a week of protest and pressure, Disney seems like they're at least saying they're doing the right thing, but it has definitely been a week that has upset many, many people. That was a mouthful. I think that encompasses the entire story. I know that I'm the gay buddy here, but to my two straight allies, what do you think about all this?
Johnny?
Yeah, I'm gonna blow a gasket here because I'm not gonna go too crazy, but this is ridiculous, and this is a bunch of corporate speak bullshit. Let's put it on the table. It's a bunch of corporate speak bullshit. The fact that Disney thinks that they're small when it's convenient for them and big when it's convenient for them is hilarious on so many levels. The lie that he told, and he told a lie, according to the DeSantis, the governor people, he is lying when he says that Disney was working behind the scenes and trying to make sure this bill didn't pass. Disney, in 2016, Disney threatened to take productions out of Georgia, and that completely turned around the LGBTQ bill that was going to be happening down there. If Disney had threatened to shut down their parks, if Disney had threatened to not put any more, or if the Marvel people had walked out, there are so many things that Disney could have done to affect this bill one way or another. And Abigail Disney came out and said, Bob Chapek is not, essentially said, Bob Chapek is not telling the truth about this whole situation. He cares about a right-wing black backlash. That's what he's really worried about. And this idea that, keep my politics out of entertainment, it doesn't exist. That's a Disney version of the world. And when in fact, clearly, politics are involved with everything you do. Identity politics, sexual politics, social justice, it's involved. Hell, a majority of the films we love so much are, even from Disney, are because they speak about accepting people for who they are, not for judging them for who they are, trying to find redemption, trying to find acceptance. Those are the basic premises of so many Disney films that made their names, made their bones as a company. So seeing this kind of thing, seeing the kind of apathetic approach to it, seeing the kind of corporate doublespeak, then seeing a paltry $5 million for Disney. DiCaprio just gave $10 million to the Ukraine. What is $5 million when it comes to really stepping forward? This is them trying to have their cake and eat it too, trying to pussyfoot around the situation rather than taking a strong stance. And it's an absolute lie that they were going, behind the scenes. In my opinion, I think they're lying through their teeth, that they were going behind the scenes and seeing, just make it clear, hey, don't do this. You're Disney, okay? You're the mouse. People are afraid to cross the mouse. And this decision, this colossal mistake has caused even creators who are under the Disney banner to speak out in a way that they've never spoken out before, willing to risk their jobs, willing to risk their status as showrunners on these shows, as writers or head writers on these future shows that haven't even come out yet. They're willing to risk this. And that tells you how horrific this is. And DeSantis, the same guy who walked up to a bunch of kids and tried to bully them about their wearing their masks, is really the guy you trust to handle this situation. Ridiculous. From so many levels, ridiculous. Disney lives off the LGBTQ community. They love going to Disney. There's days, gay days, all those things, as Michael pointed out. So to me, I thought this was a complete spit in the face of the LGBTQ community. And to be even more brutal here, I think they saw there's more people on the red state side of things than there are in the actual LGBTQ community. And so they figured, just like car insurance companies do sometimes, it's better to just pay the damages rather than to fix the thing in the car. And so I think that's what they essentially did here, and it's disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, to what John said about, the 5 million, I mean, this is lip service, what he came out afterwards. I mean, this is not expecting the blowback that has happened and now trying to kind of walk it back and be like, oh, well, we work behind the scenes, we figure it's better for these organizations to do this. It's like, well, okay, but then you also donate to candidates, you donate to politicians who supported this bill. Yeah. And there are ways, because obviously, like, Disney donates to politicians because politicians are the ones that, approve land grants and stuff like. I mean, there's a whole back and forth, but to not say any. I mean, it was the bare minimum. Like, it didn't seem like it would have been that hard for Bob Chapek to say this, but. Look, man, I mean, Florida, I'm from Florida. Vogel's from Florida. John went to school in Florida. Florida is an easy punchline a lot of times. Mm-hmm. But as someone who came from Florida and who worked with a lot of performers, with a lot of creative folks who do work for Disney, you hope that the country knows that not everyone is behind this, that, Florida... oftentimes it's not a red wave that happens with elections in Florida. It's always very, very close. And the red side, the Republicans, usually just end up eking it out. And it's just such a shame that, creatives especially, like you want to work for Disney. I mean, Disney has such an incredible history, and there's so much, and it's a studio that can make things happen. But at the same time, this is I could see this potentially being sort of maybe a creative exodus from Disney. Be like, look, until you guys get your shit figured out, like, maybe it's time to go explore some other options. Like, again, that's a perfect world. That's pie in the sky, but ultimately you just wish they would have done the right thing to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the main thing I've been thinking, I mean, obviously I agree with both of what you guys said, and I'm glad that you're my friends and you said it. It's hard. I think that so many people, even as much as people say, of course I support gay people, I support gay marriage, I support trans people, I support whatever. This is the perfect example of the world we live in, which is when the rubber meets the road and Disney is giving a lot of money to people who, as Shannon said, are probably the right ones to give money to, who are going to, like, grant land rights, tax loopholes, tax benefits, all the things that the Republican Party kind of, is known for. I'm not saying anything inflammatory to say that giant companies prefer the more conservative Republican Party in the way that they work with corporations. And so I think Disney as a giant corporation is the same thing. But when that comes in direct conflict with these issues that deal with people's rights, that deal with people's people being accepted. And I think, when you look at what this bill is, there's definitely people who are like, oh, what's the big deal? Kindergarten through third grade, you're not allowed to talk about and teach about transgender stuff or gay stuff. But, like, when you're a little gay kid or a trans kid and you're being told that who you are is not appropriate for classroom conversation, like, that has a pretty profound effect on you. So it's a big deal. I keep thinking about how much I miss Bob Iger. Like, I don't think if Iger were the CEO, even if Disney had been giving that money, the second this went down, it wouldn't have gone down the way it is. I think everything that we've witnessed in the past week is seeing Bob Chapek as not the CEO maybe that Disney needs to have as the frontward-facing person at the head of things. Am I glad that they finally came out and said what they said? Sure, but I think at this point it is a little bit too little too late. I think Disney's going to have a hard time sort of regaining ground after this from the LGBTQ community because, as you guys said, so much of what Disney has given us has come from directly from the LGBTQ community. I mean, I was thinking a lot this week about Howard Ashman. Without Howard Ashman, we don't have a part of your world. We don't have Friend Like Me. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have Beauty and the Beast. Like, we don't have Be Our Guest. Like, there is so much that one singular person brought, and he is just one tiny example of all of the amazing, talented people. Like, absolutely, creative people across the board, straight people, cisgender people, everything else. But the amount of gay people, LGBTQ people who work at the Disney company, who love the Disney company, who have, like, really given so much of their lives, and who have been so inspired by the stories, it really is, like, it's a shitty, shitty feeling. And so I'm glad that as we are reporting this, they've at least finally doubled down and said, no, we don't agree with this. But to John's point, even this whole, oh, we're going to talk with DeSantis, and DeSantis coming out and saying, well, I don't know anything about that. Like, you just still get that feeling that Disney is trying to cover their ass and they're in complete damage control, but they're not standing out at the forefront and standing for something. They're just shuffling around trying to be like, please don't look over here. We would prefer to not have the week that we're having.
Yeah. At some point, you got to understand that the power, the time is, as Abigail Disney said, it was, I think, the grandniece of Walt Disney. The time for standing on the sidelines is over, and it is, ladies and gentlemen. You got to understand that, because people are ramming through legislation that is going to affect people's lives. It isn't in the abstract; it's in the real situation. If your son, daughter, family member, friend is a member of the LGBTQ plus community, they're coming for them. That's the thing. They operate under the ignorant belief that if you talk to someone about their homosexuality or present this, you're going to turn them homosexual. You're going to turn them gay. You're going to turn them into a transvestite. You're going to turn them into all kinds of things. And it's one of the most stupidest, simplistic, ignorant points of views. And these people are using the fear of that, the manufactured fear of that, to push through this kind of legislation. And Disney, a company that absolutely promotes the idea of inclusion and acceptance and love, to not come out, as Michael said, and be on the forefront of this issue and be strong like they were in Georgia, you have to ask yourself why. I mean, if they threatened to shut down the parks there in Florida, DeSantis would have listened, because the tourist money, that's a lot of money that would have gone out of the economy of Florida. And trust me, politicians shut the fuck up once you start attacking the money that they could be making off you, because they can get voted out of office quite quickly by angry voters and angry people who've been unemployed or laid off by Disney. So it's that kind of thing. They have the power. They chose not to use it this time around. And you have to ask questions about why, and you have to find out why. And the thing is, Chapek, at the end of the day, as great as he was, with Disney Plus and the streaming service and all this could be a thing that completely undoes all of that in people's eyes. And don't be surprised if they don't take a stronger step or stronger measures here, that people in mass exodus start leaving Disney projects. Or even, what if Feige and all the Marvel people said, we're not shooting any more footage, we're done until you handle this situation? There are options here to kind of put Disney under fire and force them into a position that they should be taking. So I don't know.
I'm certainly not defending Disney here, but at this point, yeah. I mean, this isn't really Disney's battle to fight now. I mean, the bill has been passed. DeSantis is going to pass it or pass it. Chapek fucked up. Disney fucked up. Disney, yeah. I would assume, is probably going to adjust how they are allocating their money and like political giving and political donations moving forward. But the bill is the bill. Like, Disney can't fight this bill anymore. The bill happened. It's going to have to be fought in Florida governments, and that's what that is. But I think what they do need to do, and what they can do, is they do need to be, we need a little bit more than, oh, hey guys, LeFou is gay in the live action Disney, and we got like a brief shot, or hey, check out that 0.1 second lesbian kiss at the end of Rise of Skywalker, let's give ourselves a pat on the back. Like, where Chapek wasn't wrong, he was wrong in saying it as a sort of concession, but Disney's power is in their content. Yep. Disney's power is in the stories that they tell. So the thing that Disney can do moving forward, in addition to like maybe don't give to the shitty Republicans who want to take away people's rights, is, or any politician who is doing anything they shouldn't be doing, Democrat or Republican. But the other thing they should do is, like, let's really step up representation in your films. Let's not do this little, hey, wasn't that a lesbian couple in the background of the Pixar movie? I think so. Let me watch it in slow motion to make sure. But really taking the idea of representation and putting it at the forefront of more of their stories. And I know that there's examples of that, like Owl House on the Disney Channel. There's definitely shows that are doing that. There's definitely creators that are doing it. We just need to do it more.
And they need to do it on the bigger projects, Mike. The smaller projects, it's easier to get away with that. It's easier because you figure it's not going to be noticed that strongly, except by the people who are watching it. But something like, let's say, the Fastos situation, flesh that relationship out. Let's have, this is what I was talking about when I was mad about Eternals. Like, it's the same pattern, the small kiss here or the little kiss like there. Flesh it out, show it, put it in your main stuff, and hopefully, from what Feige's been saying about Marvel embracing more of that, we'll see a Loki who's bisexual. We'll see, all of that, polyamory relationship. We'll see that kind of stuff happening in our world. Transvestite, LGBTQ plus stuff, all of it happening with more main characters, and to have it be in the main projects that they're doing. That's where you're really gonna put, as you said, the rubber to the road and see how people react to it, and take both the positive and the negative that comes with that. So, yeah, we shall see. All right, let's move on to our next thing. Is it me? I think this, right? Am I moving on?
It's you.
It's okay. Let's jump into it here. We got some news coming out of Gotham City, ladies and gentlemen. Gotham City. The first thing we should talk about, I think, to lead, because it's the bigger story here, is it's been official. It is officially, rather, now happening. The Penguin series is actually happening here, according to Deadline. Matt Reeves told them on the Hero Nation podcast that the Penguin will be picking up where the movie left off in regards to the Penguin. He said the original Batman spinoff series he conceived centering around a corrupt cop and events preceding the movie is no longer moving forward at HBOMax, but the Penguin is the working title of the show. It will be executive produced by Reeves, by Dylan Clark, by Lauren LaFranc, all a part of this. Sarah Aubrey issued a statement saying from HBO Max, she said, "We are thrilled." She's the head of original content. She said, "We are thrilled to bring audiences a new version of this iconic DC character that they have never seen before. It is incredible to be working with Matt, Dylan, and Lauren on continuing the story, and to see Colin take his already exceptional performance in the Batman to the next level." So the world that Matt Reeves has created here, this is Pharrell saying this, the world that Matt Reeves created for Batman is one that warrants a deeper gaze through the eyes of Oswald Cobblepot. It was previously announced that LaFranc had penned the pilot, and of course the Penguin is based on the characters that were created there. And of course, this is coming on the heels of an incredible, $301 million global grossing success of the Batman. So this is happening on HBO Max. The Penguin, it's going straight to series off of what happened there in the Batman. So gentlemen, let's deal with that real quick. Are you excited about it? What do you think about it? What do you want to see here?
I mean, no matter how you felt about the Batman, just with us three, we have three different opinions. Johnny thought it was a masterpiece.
Yes.
I really liked it, and I think Vogel liked it maybe a little less than I did. But I think no one would argue the impression that Colin Farrell made as Oswald Cobblepot. I mean, across the board, even the folks that didn't care for it, no one has come out and said anything bad about Oswald Cobblepot. Everybody loved Colin Farrell's turn, and the way that the film leaves off, how there is a bit of a power vacuum. That seems like it's pretty ripe storytelling material to see how Oswald Cobblepot can try to ascend to the top of Gotham's criminal empire. The thing that I loved about his performance, and I don't recall seeing this before, this was an Oswald Cobblepot who's almost, you can see him wanting to be, he's going to be a bit of an imposter, because Oswald Cobblepot has always had sort of he's elegant, like he's a gentleman. And you just think about those great gangster movies where I'm thinking like De Niro in Untouchables, like these guys that came up, from the school of hard knocks, and suddenly they're in this elite world. And I think it would be awesome if he starts experimenting with top hats. If he starts, I got to carry an umbrella. It's fancy. He wears like all of these things, like prior to watching the film, be like, I don't know how it's going to work. It's kind of dumb. But now having a fuller picture of what of this character that he created, you can totally see a world in which those kind of broader comic book choices will work in the way that Matt Reeves has constructed this world. I'm so excited. Like, I finished the first time watching the Batman, and I'm like, yeah, I really like parts of it. I'm shocked that the thing that I'm coming out with the most is I can't wait to see a Penguin television show.
Mike?
I'm super excited. I don't know that I need to see him in a top hat or a monocle, but I'm equally as excited. I'm equally as excited as Shannon is, mainly because I think that Matt Reeves has a really, really clear vision for not only where he wants to take the Batman in these movies, but for Gotham City, for Arkham City, and for where he sees everything going. I mean, you really do get the sense that he has this big, sprawling story that he wants to tell, and a part of that is the Penguin's rise to power. And I think using a TV series between movies to sort of have him go from where he's at the end, I'm trying to not do too many spoilers, but where we see Oswald Cobblepot at the end of the Batman, and where Matt Reeves would like him to be at the beginning of the sequel, and letting this HBOMax series kind of fill in those gaps and tell a little bit of a more focused story on him, as opposed to using that in screen time. I think it's going to be really, really beneficial to the entire Batman story that Reeves is telling. I think Colin Farrell was absolutely amazing. I mean, I think just in the little bit that we got of him in the movie, everybody was clamoring to see more, and we're going to get that. So I see this as like I think we talked about this early on, like, well, what is this Penguin series going to be? Do we really want to see this? And now I think this is going to be a huge, huge win for them.
Yeah. I agree with both what you guys are saying. I've talked about it on all my reviews and all our conversations about the Batman. It's the Penguin that I came out of that film absolutely loving. Colin Farrell just stole the movie with every scene that he was in. So to have him have more time to expand on this is going to be interesting, because remember, Gotham wasn't that long ago, and a lot of people really enjoyed Robin Lord Miller and what he did with this Penguin. He was the standout of the show, and so now what are you going to explore here that you didn't explore there? How deeper into the Arkham games, as people have been comparing this movie, it being influenced by, to the Arkham games? How much deeper of that story are we going to tell? Are we going to weave in Court of Owls? Are we going to weave in all these other things that are connected to the Penguin in some way? Are we going to launch other films or other are we going to have him pop up in Batgirl? Like, what are we having here with Colin Farrell? Will he be the fulcrum as the Penguin of all these other shows and pop up in certain spots? Because now clearly streaming services, there's no longer a division between streaming services and theatrical films when it comes to stuff like Marvel. So I can't, and Star Wars. So I can't imagine there'll be a difference on the other side with Warner Brothers with HBO Max, a difference between the theatrical and the streaming services. So I'm excited.
But I mean, he's not showing up in Batgirl.
Okay.
That's not the same.
It's
Gotham
the
City.
Different universe.
Is
Batgirl has a different. Batgirl has
J.K. Simmons is the commissioner.
Gordon.
Oh.
Batgirl is part of the DC extended universe world. Colin Farrell is part of Matt Reeves' Batman universe.
Well, before Michael Vogel schools me too much, from what I understand, a multiverse is coming in Flash. So Penguin could show up in the Batgirl. Am I wrong on that?
I mean, you're not wrong. It would be a horrible idea, but it is Warner Brothers, so you're not wrong.
Leslie Grace, take it easy. Yeah, all right, fair enough. But you're right to correct me on that. I thought it was all going to be operating peripherally within that. But okay, fair enough. On the other side of things, one comes, one door opens and one window shuts, and the window that shuts this time around is on Gotham PD. This was also revealed by Matt Reeves on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast. That's the one hosted by Josh Horowitz, who I beat in the Schmodown, by the way. HBO Max announced the series in July of 2020. There was going to be this Gotham Police series that was going to be based on this awesome miniseries from back in the late 1970s, early 1980s called The Prince of the City, which is kind of influenced by the Sidney Lumet version of New York here. But in the end, they have, apparently, according to Matt Reeves, they have shut the window on that. He said, quote, one thing that we're not doing that I was going to do. So there's the Gotham Police show, which that one actually is put on hold. We're not really doing that. The series was set 1 year before the Batman, as the Gotham police force must reckon with the emergence of Batman and its own corruption. So in essence, Batman Year One was going to be happening around the same time as this series, and it was going to be following a corrupt Gotham cop. So maybe they figured, well, we can't have two spin-off series where both of the leads are corrupt people. Let's put all our baskets in the Penguin type of situation. So it is not happening, but there is a series apparently coming to maybe take its place, which is about Arkham Asylum. And we know with the Batman, the Arkhams were spoken about. The Arkham Asylum is a thing in the Batman. Certainly, they compared it to the Arkham games. So, do you guys like the idea that we're not going to get this GCPD in essence show and get an Arkham Asylum show instead? Do you think they're doing that to launch future villains for the Batman to face in the movies?
I mean, that's certainly an interesting idea. I mean, like Gotham Central, the comic series, is outstanding. And when they first announced that they were going to do a GCPD series, I think for comic fans, the hope is like, oh, you're doing Gotham Central. Yeah. And then, the log line leaked out, and it was just like, okay, that's not actually it, but okay, maybe it's close. But it's like, okay, if the Gotham that Matt Reeves is building, like if the story is no longer going in that direction, I'd rather have them cancel it than and give us an opportunity to see like a proper like Gotham Central take place within the world of the Batman. The further the more the world expands. The Arkham series, that's interesting. Like I was thinking about that. I'm like, you could have something like the Arkham Chronicles where you focus on a different inmate and how they got there, where they're going. That's another one of those. I'm like, I don't know what that show is because I don't know unless this has to do with inmates getting out. I don't know where that show goes. But for the most part, Matt Reeves really delivered. So if this is what he thinks is the best course of action, I'm there for it.
Yeah, Mike. I mean, do you like this idea? They're shutting one down for the other, and do you think that maybe some WB executives took a look at everything and were like, let's move in this direction instead? What do you think happened here?
I mean, like, I think that they probably tried to develop this Gotham series out, and the PD series, and it never quite got where they wanted it to be. And it wasn't working. And then I think as the movie has come out, I think also setting something a year before this movie kind of makes it feel like, well, then why do we care? Like, I think as people are really excited about what's happening in the Batman, everything we just said about the Penguin is, oh, that's cool because we're going to get to see where he goes next. And you know what Matt Reeves said in that interview that you mentioned, he goes, we've moved into the realm of exactly what would happen in the world of Arkham as it relates coming out of our movie and some of the characters and their origins, almost leaning into the idea of it's like a horror movie or a haunted house that is Arkham. And he said the idea, again, the way that Gotham is a character in the movie, I really want Arkham to exist as a character. So you go into this environment and encounter these characters in a way that feels really fresh. And so in our work on Gotham, that story was evolving and it started to feel like, well, let's really lean into this. And that's where they ended up. So I think that as they were I'm sure that in this Gotham series, this GCPD series that they were talking about, Arkham and the inmates and dealing with those people was a presence. And as often happens, maybe like they started to like build things out and they realized their main character in the story they were telling was less interesting than this smaller part. And somebody was like, oh, let's do this. Because even if this Arkham series were to take place prior to the Batman, seeing some of these characters that we know and are familiar with coming into Arkham and knowing that they are there. I mean, again, without getting into any major spoilers for people who haven't watched the Batman yet, something that a lot of people have been talking about coming out of the Batman is the storyline of No Man's Land, where all of Gotham became like this war zone and all these criminals were breaking out. And so like maybe using the Arkham series to plant a bunch of criminals that could be in the next movie and we already know who they are and where they came from could be really interesting. So I think it's a really good idea.
Yeah, I think so too. I look forward to seeing what we're going to get from that. But the horror aspect gives me hesitation the same way it did when James Wan was like, oh, let's do the Trench as a horror out of Aquaman. Stop it. To me, I'm like, just focus on what it is. Build that out a little bit, and then we can maybe mess with it.
But Arkham Asylum is a horror. Like, the Trench and these creatures in the Trench and James Wan, like, you're like, okay, I kind of see what you want to do, but, like, Arkham Asylum is a horror house. Like, it's, like, super fucked up people, each monster with their own origin. Like, it kind of leans way more towards being horror than saying I'm going to do some random thing and make it a horror.
Oh no! Don't misunderstand. I'm not saying you can't do it, right? It's not something, but I'm saying it's not something I necessarily gravitate to. Because I mean, what are we going to have a hero psychiatrist or a hero nurse or something like that deals with the fact that these people are insane, and so in essence, your villains become in a way anti-heroes because you get to spend more time with them, get to know them, get to see what makes them tick. Because one-dimensional evil villains is going to be not interesting at all. You have to humanize them, and in humanizing them, you risk turning them into anti-heroes.
I'm going to direct you to Bruce Timm's Batman the Animated Series. I don't know if you've noticed, but out of every comic book hero that there is, Batman's Rogues Gallery is a Rogues Gallery filled with tragic characters who are not one-dimensional villains, who have these very, very unique origins. Victor Freeze, Clayface, Two-Face, any one of them. Also,
a lot of faces.
I could see them, a lot of faces. I could see them doing something, like maybe there is a young up-and-coming psychiatrist who starts at Arkham Asylum with intentions of really making her name and then gets seduced by these villains and then goes down a villainous road, and maybe her name is Harley Quinzel.
What universe is that in? I want to clarify what universe that is in.
Well, she is allowed to be in this universe as well because she is a Batman character.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think the Batgirl and the Penguin are Batman characters, but all right. But
Margot Robbie's let me explain to you how universes work.
You stop condescending to me right now, first of all. You cut that shit out right now.
Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn she could show up in Batgirl. If there is a Harley Quinn in Matt Reeves' Batman, it will most likely not be Margot Robbie.
Oh, all right. Or could be. We don't know. No, my point is that and let me direct you back to Bruce Timm's the Batman series. They went on adventures outside of Arkham Asylum. That's my point. If this is all self-contained, it'll feel like New Mutants, and I don't want New Mutants. So I want something that'll go out. That's, I guess, my overall general point is I don't want a horror house. I want something else that's going to be a little bit more expansive overall. But again, this is just the idea. They haven't even started probably with a script yet or anything like that. I'm sure they're mapping stuff out, but not really necessarily locking down scripts. So who knows where it's going to go. But it's exciting. And one movie doing so well, now launching possibly 2 spinoff series off. It's pretty incredible. Entertainment's changing left and right. All right, Shannon, calm us down here. Let's do something positive. What are we talking about here?
We're talking trailers. I'm going to save the last one for the main topic. Right now, we're going to talk about 2 trailers. So the first one, we got a Red Band trailer. The second trailer for the Nicolas Cage opus, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. So that first trailer, it just looked like Nick Cage craziness, having fun. Pedro Pascal's there, a little bit of Tiffany Haddish, a little bit of Ike Barinholtz. So this one, when the project was first announced, they had talked about how Nick Cage would start working with the CIA. So we didn't really get a whole lot of that from the first trailer. Now we have a very, very clear picture of where the movie is going to go. And much like the first trailer, the second one did not disappoint at all. So gentlemen, I'll throw it to you first. What did you all think of our second look at The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent?
Mikey?
I'm so into this movie. I mean, Nick Cage taking the piss out of Nick Cage is just gold. And then really kind of seeing with this trailer, we get a little bit more of the story. So we knew in the first trailer that Nicolas Cage, playing Nicolas Cage, went to an island where Pedro Pascal played a guy who hired Nicolas Cage to come hang out there because he loved Nicolas Cage. So we got that part. What we get here is that Ike Barinholtz and Tiffany Haddish are working for the government, and Pedro Pascal is a big bad guy, and Nicolas Cage basically has to go undercover and is really upset about it because he really loves his number one fan, and his number one fan really loves him. And so just the levels of this thing, like Nicolas Cage going to this place as Nicolas Cage, finding this guy who loves everything that he's done, which kind of makes him feel better about his career, finding out that he has to work against this guy as if he's in a Nick Cage movie, and then not wanting to because these 2 dudes really are in love with each other, is such a batshit crazy concept, and I literally can't wait to see it.
Yeah, this is one of those stories that unsettles me and excites me at the same time, because there are fans who think, if I could just meet this famous person, we'd totally be best friends. And this now will just instigate that kind of belief and reinforce that kind of belief as well for some people. And so I don't necessarily like that idea, but you're right. This is a way bigger movie than you initially thought from that first trailer. Oh, he's just a guy who's going to go over and they're going to get into some weird madcap stuff, like the scene from the wall in the first trailer where he's crying, he's trying to get him to climb over the wall, which is brilliant. This is clearly a way bigger situation than they anticipated, and kind of funny to see two members of the after party here with Tiffany Haddish and Ike Barinholtz coming together now to play members of the government or agency here, trying to make sure Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal are not getting into or whatever trouble they're getting into to monitor it. But there's so many great allusions to Nick's former movies. I mean, the two guns coming out, the two gold guns, that is just genius on so many levels. And Mike, I think you nailed it here, man. This is a bromance. We're watching to go see a bromance, a way out there, insane bromance. And Nicolas Cage dialing into Nicolas Cage. I mean, that scene where he's doing the sneer and the screen and all of that, like, that's like, oh my God, he's so willing to go there. That makes me excited on so many levels as well. And this looks like, I mean, I love that they started with Lion's Cage. When a studio gets the film, then they're going to promote it in such a great way to get you excited about it. And so I love that they're doing that here in this trailer. 100%, if there's any hesitation, you know what this movie is now. And if you're not excited about it, I don't know what's wrong with you. This looks like a blast, and God love Nicolas Cage, who does not have an issue taking the piss out of himself as long as it's done well, and it seems like it's going to be done well in this movie. So yeah,
over the last few years, he's made some very off the wall projects. Some very artistic that got critical accolades, and some that are just bananas. But much like Ben Affleck in The Tender Bar, and again, I'm basing this off of two trailers.
Oh, yeah. Right.
There is a light in Nicolas Cage's eyes when he's, again, taking the piss out of himself. And it's like, I cannot wait to watch this. I mean, it comes out April 22nd. It is going to rule the box office for 2 weeks before Doctor Strange inevitably runs it over. So our next trailer, speaking of things that got run over, we got our first teaser for Star Trek Strange New Worlds. So, I'm so curious to, like, the Paramount marketing team, clearly, they're probably not discussing with other studios about release strategies. But when they release this trailer, and then the trailer for Obi-Wan comes out right after, it's sort of like, wow, that is unfortunate. But this teaser, and again, I'm not a Star Trek guy, these two gentlemen are, this teaser does look really, really cool. So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, gentlemen, but this is an offshoot of Discovery, because we're following now Anson Mount's Christopher Pike. Yeah. And so the thing that I loved visually about this trailer, and it was something that I really liked about Star Trek Into Darkness, was the earthbound real world aspect of it, like sort of the precursor to the adventure. Watching him with these enormous fans, like these enormous sort of, I'm assuming, windmills in the snow before we see a spaceship, I thought that looked so cool. Yeah. So again, as you two are the resident Star Trek expert, I will throw it over to you. What did you think of our first look at Star Trek Strange New Worlds?
Christopher Pike. I mean, that's a character that I've been obsessed with since the original series, when he was in that wheelchair beeping yes or no to Spock in the Menagerie two-parter episodes, which is incredible. And I did those on Enterprise Incidents with Scott and Steve, and I am so excited. I loved him with Bruce Greenwood in the 2009 Star Trek, the J.J. Abrams Star Trek universe, and now Anson Mount killed it on Discovery as Christopher Pike, and bringing his whole crew into its own thing. The trailer, the pitch, everything about it, and the way they were in Discovery, because they essentially, in my opinion, I know Michael disagrees, they saved Discovery by being a part of it in the second season. Already, this trailer right here is the best trailer I've seen for any of the Star Trek that's come out or going to come out, in my opinion. It absolutely mixes the new Star Trek with the old Star Trek and finds a happy medium, from that flip phone that's sitting on the desk to the shuttle that comes around. Like, it's a great mixture of both. And Anson Mount is a man, ladies and gentlemen. And it's great to see Captain Pike here. as a man with this awesome crew of actors and characters that they're going to bring into this. I'm very, very excited for Strange New Worlds. It feels like the original series, an homage to the original series Star Trek, and that's what excites me at my base level as an original series fan. So I'm very, very much looking forward to this one from the trailer.
I think they're doing a good job. Every Star Trek show kind of has a different feel and a different vibe, and this one definitely, to John's point, has like a classic Star Trek vibe. I mean, kind of seeing the Enterprise before it was the Enterprise that we knew is kind of a really kind of fun and interesting thing. I'm with you, Shannon. This is just the year for trailers that really get me with horses in the snow. Like between Jurassic Park and this, like Jurassic Park, it's like, look, let's like, it's some horses in the snow with dinosaurs, and here you're like, it's some horse in the snow with a ship coming through. Like it just really, it works for me. I really love the opening narration. Like, I love the whole thing that you were saying. I think it's Rebecca Romaine's character, but I'm not sure. Kind of saying that whole thing about, for as much as we talk about how wide and expansive the universe is, and as much as we say that mathematically we know that there must be more out there, that first contact, that first time that someone from the stars comes down, always feels it's stuff of fairy tales. It's the stuff of magic. And you know that this is the crew that's going to go out and seek out new life and new civilizations and boldly and explore strange new worlds and go where no one has gone before. So the idea, the promise of the trailer that we're going to see this crew go to new planets and make first contact with species and be the people that like introduce new alien races to this Federation and this wider world of space. Like, it has all the hallmarks of what you love about Star Trek. It's exploration, it's optimism, it's hope, it's diversity, it's all the things that I love. So yeah, the promise of this trailer is pretty great. I'm super, super stoked.
Yeah.
Well, and that is going to come out on May 5th. So what you can do is either watch it at midnight or watch it during the day and then go see Doctor Strange that night.
Whew, it's going to be a crazy day.
Yeah, I'm going to have to rattle the cage on Paramount Plus here, man. I want to get these things as soon as possible. All right, well, there you go. That's our geek news items that we talked about in the first half of the show. We're going to take a quick break and then jump into our main geek news item, which is that conversation about the Obi-Wan Kenobi teaser trailer. We'll be right back right after this.
Do, 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 do.
No,
do.
Wrong.
Do, 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 do.
Shouldn't it be
The Duel of the Fates, man. That trailer, Duel of the Fates all over.
I didn't want to do it. I don't have that raging falsetto that you do, so
you got to commit. Okay, so let's jump into this thing. I mean, we had those pictures dropped this morning from Entertainment Weekly, the last print edition of Entertainment Weekly dropped, and some great window into what this world is. Those shots of Kenobi's, those shots of Moses Ingram as Reva, the Inquisitor there, seeing some more of Tatooine, seeing some possible glimpses of the new planet that they've teased is going to be in Kenobi. And then not even a few hours later, bang, here comes the teaser trailer for, which a lot of people were speculating right after those pictures dropped that the trailer was coming. And sure enough, it did. A minute and 46 seconds, chock full of an idea of what the story is going to be, with some great, like, oh my God moments, getting to see Ewan McGregor back again as Obi-Wan Kenobi, hearing him back again as Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is a broken Obi-Wan. This is an Obi-Wan that's probably questioning the Jedi, questioning his religion, questioning what he's dedicated his life to. His quote-unquote best friend, I don't buy that still, has turned to the dark side and become Darth Vader. He's seen so many people die. Padme, all of this happened here. The council shattering. Ahsoka Tano now, especially a part of this now in time where we're at. Then he's here on Tatooine and he sees young Luke, which was an awesome moment, either pod racing or flying an X-wing. And then seeing, and then we hear the Grand Inquisitor throughout Rupert Friend, throughout the whole trailer, giving us this idea of the Jedi and hunting down the Jedi and killing the Jedi. So clearly they think there is a Jedi here on Tatooine. So this is a Jedi on the run type of show, it feels like. And we're going to go to a number of places. And that new planet is glimpsed in the trailer that feels very Blade Runner-esque in its approach and its look. And we got introduced to the Grand Inquisitors for the first time in live action on screen. Pretty incredible stuff here. Michael, what did you think? Oh, and we got Uncle Owen as well, for God's sakes. Joel Edgerton back as Uncle Owen. So, Michael, thoughts on the trailer overall before we go and break down everything in it?
I mean, overall, I was, it was just, it floored me. Like, it was great. Like, it's everything you wanted this trailer to be. And then some. Like, just the amount of Inquisitors that we got and the amount of story that we got. And basically that it's basically the fugitive in space. I mean, it's someone who's on the run who is trying to stay low, but as a Jedi probably can't help themselves and ends up helping people along the way, and that gets them in trouble. I mean, it's the fugitive. And everything that they said in the narration that the Grand Inquisitor said about Jedis can't help themselves. It's like an itch. Like they just have to do good. Like it's so compelling as an idea and really filling in these gaps. And also, if you do read the Star Wars comics that are currently coming out with Marvel a few years ago, there was a big chunk of the comics that really dealt with Obi-Wan Kenobi watching over Luke and kind of the conflict that he had with Uncle Owen. And just based on the little bit you see in this trailer, it does look like we're going to get a lot of that. Like with Obi-Wan Kenobi thinking he has to do one thing with Luke and Uncle Owen being like, fuck no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. He finished.
You're done with your point? Okay, great. Shannon, what did you think of the trailer overall?
Is that not enough? Do you want me to
No,
keep
you
going?
just got to stop that. Sorry.
Look, I mean, you put it best, John. I mean, this is an Obi-Wan Kenobi who is defeated. Like this guy, he is on his last mission. His last mission is to protect this kid, probably from a distance. I mean, based off again just the glimpse, dude's living in a cave, sleeping on a mat.
Yeah.
So this is a guy who, as you said, has probably he's disenfranchised. He's lost his way. Like this, the fight is done. Mm-hmm. So watching what Ewan McGregor is going to bring to this is so exciting. Getting those peeks at not just the Grand Inquisitor, definitely the fifth brother. Looks like another one of the sisters. I don't know what the number is, but also Moses Ingram's character, who I believe, according to the pictures, is named Reva. Yeah. Getting to see that it looks like she's in Tatooine, basically trying to burn Obi-Wan out. I mean, we see some feet dangling that we are assuming someone has been hung. Yeah. And watching her going up against, like, having that moment with Joel Edgerton, which, Deborah Chow with the photos was quoted as saying, thank you, George, for casting Joel Edgerton as Uncle Owen. That's all I can say. It just looks so exciting. Seeing that they have the spinning red lightsabers as well. The one thing that I was sort of like, and it's, we just need to see a little more footage to really have a solid opinion on it. A solid judgment call is I love Rupert Friend's voice as the Grand Inquisitor. The makeup from the shots that we had, it's a little, I don't know. The look didn't quite sell me. Yeah. But that's really the only thing. I mean, the fifth brother makeup, like, we're not on him long enough, but that was another one that I was like, I'm not so sure. But everything else around it seems so great. And, there's still time to, there's going to be more footage. There's going to be different angles. So hopefully the two little moments that kind of irked me, hopefully they are not going to be prevalent in the series.
Yeah. There's you talk about the Grand Inquisitors. Yeah, what do you think, Mike, of the look? I mean, I got a little bit of, and I know we talked about Star Trek already in the previous block, but it felt a little bit like, was it Nero, that the character that Eric Bana played in the 2009 Star Trek? It had a little bit of that vibe. It did, what we're used to seeing in the animated series, which of course you can't 100% mirror, is that kind of angular, I mean, almost Doug Jones-like look to the body type of the Inquisitors. His with a little more of a pronounced head, and clearly there's makeup, and he's not shaving his hair maybe, and it's done this way. What do you think about that? And what do you think about him using that voice? You're so used to hearing Jason Isaac's voice. What do you think about that? Was that a bit of a?
I'm with Shannon. I think the voice was great. I think what they're able to do on TV on their budgets is amazing. Everything is looking feature quality. It looks spectacular. Like, I've got no complaints. I think the one thing that we've seen, whether it was the Pikes in Book of Boba Fett, some people's opinion about Cad Bane, I think that we, particularly if you're a fan of the animated series, that stylized, sort of skinnier faces, stretched out faces, there's an element, you know, to the way that they design these characters that when you reverse engineer them back to actually using prosthetics on somebody, there's only so much you can do unless you're going to start doing CG, and that starts to get really pricey really fast. So I'm with Shannon. Like, when I saw the one shot of the Inquisitor, I was like, okay, we'll see. But I think that's something that maybe might throw me off in the first scene, and then I'll just get used to it. I think that the promise of this idea of the Inquisitors coming in, hunting down the Jedi, doing the work that was started by Anakin in Revenge of the Sith and Order 66, like, I think it's just going to be great. It's such a compelling story, and it's going to link up so nicely to Star Wars Rebels. I mean, you know, it's like, as this chapter is doing what it's doing, you'll be able to go watch all of this one day and go right from Obi-Wan Kenobi into Rebels and see these Inquisitors show up, and you'd be like, oh yeah, I know who they are. This is great. And Ewan McGregor just looks fantastic. I think with Book of Boba Fett, there was a lot of, well, what is this show going to be? Like, we know we're going to see how he got out of the Sarlacc pit, but what is this show going to be? And then we took a detour into Mandalorian country, and it was, this just feels like it's a show, just based on the trailer, it just feels like it's a show that really knows exactly what it is. Here is a story. It is very specific. It is about a character that we want to know where he's at. We all know that he's starting at maybe his lowest point ever. And we know where he's going to end up at New Hope. But there's a lot of miles in there to fill in. Like, there's a lot of things because, you know, we know briefly through Star Wars Rebels that he kind of wraps up things with Darth Maul. But beyond that, like, we don't know the adventures he goes on. We don't know the things that he does. So there's a lot of potential story here. And like I said, to me, looking at it, seeing him on that like sort of work ship with all the other people, you know, there very much is this feel like not only Obi-Wan Kenobi, but just as a galaxy. Like, this is a galaxy where the Empire has just recently taken over, and everything and everyone just feels so defeated. You see everybody like in that line. It felt very like the Depression. You see everybody in the work ship, like they're just trying to get by, keeping their heads down. And so you really get a sense of, like, you know, here's a bunch of people that are not ready for the Inquisitors to show up and start, you know, kicking ass. And how far of that is how much of that is Obi-Wan Kenobi going to take before he can't take anymore? Like, it's a really compelling setup.
Yeah, and what is, let me ask you this. What's sitting next to him? What is that?
It's Grogu. It's Grogu. He's really young. It's Grogu just hatched. Grogu just hatched out of his Yoda egg.
I mean,
it's like baby Groot. He's just like.
I mean, I didn't think Grogu was showing up in the Book of Boba Fett, so at this point.
Kathleen Kennedy's like, you got to put Grogu in here. Not Favreau. I don't want to put it in it, Filoni. I'm not going to put it in it. I don't know. That was the question because at the end, the last shot of him, it looks like he's like digging into a bag for something, and it looks like a bag next to him. Is it his old lightsaber? Has he sworn off the lightsaber? Is he not going to use it? And there's also that shot in the alley with someone there with a blaster facing off in a kind of a gun showdown with Reva. And who is that? Is that Han Solo uses a blaster? Is that Uncle Owen? Is that?
You love to throw Han Solo into every conversation like Han Solo's going to show up.
You love to doubt me, and then Andrew Garfield saves, you know, I'm just throwing it out there.
How old is Han Solo right now? You do the math. How old is Han Solo?
He's 15, 16. Wouldn't you say?
Well, I mean, how old does Luke look? I thought Luke looked a little old.
He's at least 10.
That's what I was gonna say. He was at least 10.
So he's only 7 years away from A New Hope. Maybe 7 or 8. So I think Solo is at least in his 20s or young teen or late teens. So I don't know. I'm throwing it out there, but it could be Obi-Wan. It could be Uncle Owen. And I want to go back to the Uncle Owen thing you mentioned here, Shannon. Yeah, Deborah Chow said a pretty strong statement there with Joel Edgerton. That means Uncle Owen is going to have a really strong part in this show. And so, we're original trilogy people originally. Uncle Owen ain't that scary when you see him in the movie. He's a bit angry. He's a little doughier. But to go in the Joel Edgerton route, what do we see? What are we going to get from him? Remember, I mean, they gave him the baby, so he must be, or Luke rather, he must be aware of the connection here. So, so if he's aware of it, how much of an active part is he going to play here in defending Luke? Is this a rebirth in essence of this character in people's eyes in a way, canon-wise, that will be a completely different way that you assess Uncle Owen now going forward after this series?
Oh, I'm hoping that this series is going to inform why Uncle Owen was so with Luke. Like, don't go talk to that crazy old man.
Good point.
Keep him, like, don't go near that guy. Like, there's nothing but trouble over there.
Well, yeah, no, like I said, I mean, like, the comics already sort of established some of this, and I'm hoping that the series kind of takes their cues from it, in that at a certain point, Obi-Wan Kenobi in the comics, they might not go this route, but in the comics, Obi-Wan Kenobi's like, look, if this kid doesn't have any training, if this kid doesn't know anything about the Force, and he runs into his dad, like, he's gonna be in trouble. Like, I need to show this kid something. I need to, like, get this kid prepared. And Uncle Owen is like, no, like, I know who his dad is. I know what happened to his dad. Under no circumstances are you going near him. Like, I don't want you anywhere. And like that relationship, these two people that both care very much about Luke, but might have very different ideas on what protecting him means. I think there's a lot to play there for sure. And even if they don't go on the route exactly that the comics did, it's really easy to see how these two would have very different opinions on what keeping him safe really looks like.
Yeah.
And in terms of who you were talking about, John, who was in that blaster fight? I mean, we didn't get a glimpse of Kumail Nanjiani. We didn't get a glimpse of O'Shea Jackson Jr. We didn't get a glimpse of Benny Safdie. We did see, which I thought was awesome, a super fast shot of Indira Varma as an Imperial officer, which, for our audience, like, she was from Game of Thrones, she was from Rome, spectacular performer. Yeah, the idea that the Empire is going in and basically shaking Tatooine down to find, these potentially hidden Jedi, I think it's going to be a blast.
Do you think Vader is leading this assault with the Inquisitors? Do you think Vader knows Kenobi's on this planet or suspects Kenobi's on this planet, which is why he has sent these ruthless Inquisitors to come in and go after him, possibly? And of course, that new planet, Daiwu, I think that's how you say it, Daiwu. Do you think that's a possibility?
I mean, I don't see how it wouldn't be, knowing that Jedi and that they can sense they can sense each other. Yeah, like it would not surprise me. And also, Vader knowing that I have a half brother who is on this planet. Like, I don't. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, I don't think he's leading the assault. I'll be happy to be wrong on this. I want to see as much of Anakin, early Vader as we can. I think we won't see as much of him as people are hoping we see. I think that they'll be holding that in reserve. I think that the Grand Inquisitor and the Inquisitors are doing the most of the heavy lifting in this series, and we'll see just a little bit of where he's at. But I could be wrong, and I would be super happy to be wrong about that.
Okay.
And I think, like, again, it'll be interesting to see how much Darth Vader does know. Like Shannon said, the Force, you can sense people. Like, are they on Tatooine because Anakin really is sure that Obi-Wan Kenobi is there and that's where he's at and that's what's happening? Is this just a broad search for Jedi in general? Like, how much of this is a personal thing and how much of this is just like, this is our new job? And, like, there is a world, and I mean, I'm not saying that I think this is necessarily what I would like to see, where this is just about two people picking up the pieces where we last left them and building in their own way, like where Obi-Wan Kenobi is at his lowest point and figuring out what protecting Luke and being a Jedi in this new normal means. At the same time, we see a little bit of Anakin stepping into his role as Darth Vader and kind of getting more comfortable with that, and maybe never the twain shall meet. Like, I don't know that this is culminating. I could be wrong on this. I don't know that I need to see a battle between Anakin or between Vader and Obi-Wan that is the precursor to the battle in A New Hope. I kind of think it makes sense that we saw them on Mustafar and they don't really see each other again until the Death Star. So we'll see.
I'd be really surprised. Someone on my trailer reaction commented that, I don't know if it's right or not because I haven't even checked it, but Kathleen Kennedy apparently said that there's going to be 2 fights between those two, but I've never seen anything where she said that. So I don't know if they would have 2 separate fights, lightsaber fights in the show. That would seem weird. One would make sense at some point.
Maybe we see a flashback. I mean, maybe we see them training at the Jedi Temple and we see them fighting with each other.
Yeah, there's that way around it. Yeah.
There's definitely ways that you can have Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen performing together without actually doing it. That being said, maybe they do face off. Like, Anakin knows that Obi-Wan Kenobi is alive, at least when last he saw him, he left him legless and walked away. Like, he knows Obi-Wan Kenobi's not dead. So maybe this is the final confrontation before A New Hope. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
It's so wide open, but the possibilities are really, really exciting.
And another side of this that's Rebels related, as you both have brought up here, the Grand Inquisitors. Real quick, let's talk about that. Some of the shots of what people are speculating here. I'm looking at Gizmodo here, Jermaine Lucier, saying that it looked like the Fortress Inquisitorius, based on the moon of Nur in the Mustafar system, introduced in Jedi Fallen Order. We do get a number of shots of that base with a black sleek ship coming into it and then seeing inside of it. So how much of that is going to play into this? And did you guys get a little bit of a jazz seeing that Fortress Inquisitorius in live action form here?
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, it looks like Reva's getting her assignment essentially from the fifth brother and whoever the other Inquisitor is, whatever sister number.
Yeah, they're speculating seventh sister, but I don't know if that's true or not. Yeah,
I don't think that's the seventh because she didn't have. It looks like she had like tendrils. But yes, whenever we get to see a new Star Wars location in live action, it always sort of awakens the 7-year-old in me. Things that pre the prequels, like I thought Star Wars was done.
Yeah.
And then after episode 3, I was like, okay, Star Wars is done. We're not going to see it anymore. And the fact that we are seeing it, and some of the results haven't been exactly what I wanted, but the fact that we still get these, you get the best effects possible now with people telling these stories who are insanely passionate about it. And that's the thing that makes me, that has me so excited for the series, even feeling a little Book of Boba burned at the end of that one.
I think that I'm just thrilled about your point about the Inquisitors and just seeing more of them and their world and everything. Like, they're such a great idea. Like, George Lucas sort of presented this idea of the Sith, that there can be only 2. But then you were like, well, shit, I kind of want some other badasses. And the Inquisitors were born. Like, they are not Sith lords. They are Force-sensitive people who the Sith use to do their dirty work. But, like, in a way, now that they're in live action, I think the Inquisitors are what the Knights of Ren could have been and never were. Right. We were introduced to this really great idea in Force Awakens of the Knights of Ren, and we got really excited. Rian Johnson clearly not that interested in them, and then J.J. Abrams was like, okay, well, let me bring them back in at the end just to have them get their butts kicked, and they never really became a thing. Yeah. But the Inquisitors, we already know what their deal is, and we already know that they're pretty cool, and so seeing these characters, and whether you learned about them from Rebels or learned about them from Jedi Fallen Order, in both places, they're really, really awesome. So seeing them come to life and seeing this whole new level of bad guy kind of come to life in live action, I think is going to be really exciting for people that aren't as familiar with the rest of Star Wars.
Yeah. We also get a new droid, so we'll see who that droid is called. They're speculating. It says the armor says NED, so could it be Ned the droid? Speculating that's
my vote is that's Kumail Nanjiani.
Yeah.
I just think his voice is. I think he lends himself really well to being a really funny droid. I could be totally wrong on that, but I just have from the moment that they were all announced, I was like, I bet you're a droid.
Yeah.
He spent all those hours in the gym. He doesn't get to show off his physique.
You kicked me out of the final battle, and I can't show my physique. All right, cool, good to go. All right, any other final words before we wrap up here on this teaser trailer for Kenobi?
No, a lot of exciting stuff coming up on Disney Plus. Moon Knight in a couple of weeks, and then Obi-Wan right after that.
Even though I made fun of Shannon, I do think like just the fact that they hit that Duel of Fates hard in that trailer was really personally satisfying to me, because I have a lot of opinions on the prequels that are not great, but the score is not one of them. I think that John Williams just knocked every single one of those movies right out of the park, and Duel of the Fates is amazing. So to kind of call that back, I thought was really, really smart.
And John Williams will be doing the main theme for Kenobi, so that's a positive to kind of connect everything together, kind of full circle. So pretty incredible
Let
stuff.
that man do as many themes as he can in the time he has got left.
Yeah. 91 years old. He might outlive us all. You never know. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us for this episode of the Geek Buddies. We appreciate it madly. Whether you're listening to us on our podcast feed or watching here on the Outlaw Nation YouTube channel, watching our pretty faces talk about all things geekery. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at @geek_buddies. On Instagram, at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung. On Instagram, at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you would like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is at MKToon. If you would like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is at The Rocha Says.
Mikey?
If you want to hear us talking about all manner of things, including John Rocha's wacky opinions on Batman villains in Arkham City, here's how you can help us keep doing that. Definitely hit the like button below. Just hit it right now while I'm talking about it. Subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page. Check out all the other amazing content that he's got going on. Leave your comments below. What do you think about Disney and Bob Chapek? What do you think about this new Arkham series? What do you think about the Penguin series? What do you think of these trailers? And most importantly, what did you think of the Kenobi trailer? Let us know below. If you are listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere podcasts are available, take a little bit of a second, leave us some stars and some comments. Helps us go up in the rankings. And as always, the best thing that you guys can do is retweet this video, post it to your socials, and tell all your friends to hang out with the Geek Buddies.
There you go. Boom, boom, boom. So thank you all so much. We appreciate it madly. Just a quick programming note here. I got a new show starting up tomorrow on the Outlaw Nation called The Hot Mic, where me and Jeff Snyder tackle the controversial issues of the world of entertainment and the bigger issues in the world of entertainment as well. So we're just
I'm already nervous.
Yeah, exactly. That's some people already saying, "Oh, what could go wrong with that Simpsons guy in the crash helmet?" So yeah, but so it's going to be a lot of fun, certainly, to see that. But it is going to be live at 4 p.m. PT. Going to be doing that probably every Thursday with Jeff Snyder, and you guys asked for it, so now it's happening. We'll see if we survive or not. And also, big thanks to Carbon Health, who powers and sponsors what we do here on the Geek Buddies, and by default, the Outlaw Nation as well. You guys are awesome. Please go to carbonhealth.com and go checked out. Go get checked out. Go see if they've got a clinic near you. They got 90 clinics in 14 states. They offer virtual care in 24 states. Pretty much anything that you've got going on with you can get checked out with them. And sometimes you can get day of appointments, which we know is very hard to do nowadays. So go and check them out. They believe good healthcare should be accessible to everybody, and they certainly care about you as much as we do. All right, y'all take care of yourselves. Be well, and we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode of the
Geek
Buddies! Hey!